Hi everyone, welcome back to Woolen Garden. I'm really excited to be filming today. I'm just gonna give you an update on what's been happening, what I've learned over the past 2 years of gardening here in San Diego, and a little bit of tips about spaghetti squash, just because I've had such a good year with the spaghetti squash, and I've had a lot of questions from people that I know asking about how do you know when it's ready, how do you know when to cut the fruit. So I was gonna go over that with you guys today. So I'm sitting right here next to a spaghetti squash, and it's pretty yellow, as you can see, which to me tells me that it's ready to be cut off. The thing with spaghetti squash is you can leave them on the vine for a long time, and some people will say that the way to know when the spaghetti squash is ready is when the vine dies out. So some people will just let it do its thing, let the vine die out at the end of the season, and then cut all the fruits. The thing is, you can also cut the fruit a little bit earlier, like when it's yellow like this, and if you look at the vine where it's coming from, it is starting to brown. And if you cut the fruits a little bit earlier than when the plant is absolutely done, you'll encourage it to grow more fruit. So you'll end up having more spaghetti squash at the end, which is fantastic. So this is the point where I would cut them. I have a lot more growing, and I'll show you guys the difference between when I would leave it, because it still needs a little bit of time, and when I would cut it. At this point, I'm cutting it now, but it's not quite ripe, so I wouldn't go home and cook it right away. I would leave it. You can leave them in like a dry, cool place in your home for multiple months. They will stay good for a really long time. All right, I've come over here to show you guys this vine. So it's this vine particularly is very dead. It is still my spaghetti squash, and I wanted to show you guys this, not because the plant itself is not dead, it's still very alive, but that's what happened after you cut the fruit. So I wanted to express that it's completely normal for the plant to do this after you cut the fruit a little bit early, because every vine of the spaghetti squash plant will only make so many fruits. So once it's done and it's grown to its full potential, the goal of the plant is to mature the fruit. So if you cut the fruits off a little bit earlier, then that vine has no more fruit to mature. So the plant will stop putting energy into that specific vine, but it will focus on the other vine and even making more vines. So that's why it's so great to cut the fruit a little bit early and let them ripen or finish their ripening process on your counter in a cold room, because they will stay good in there for a really long time, and you end up getting more spaghetti squash at the end, which is fantastic. The other plant that I wanted to talk to you guys about today is eggplants. So you can see this wonderful, beautiful eggplant growing right now. It's actually been in the ground this is its second season. And I've come to realize here in San Diego, or at the community garden at least, that August is the month where the eggplants start just blossoming and doing amazing. I didn't rip it off last year after it was done because I was hoping I could keep it, and I was right. I did debate about ripping it out during the summer months a few times because it was definitely struggling. I didn't get that many fruits over the summer. The fruits weren't as nice looking as they do now, and so I thought that maybe keeping the plant was a mistake, and that I should just plant another seed and start from scratch again. But I'm really happy I didn't, because it's definitely bouncing back. I did have to prune it to allow for airflow so that the fruits can get more sunlight and more air to avoid bacterial or fungus infections. But other than that, I've just let it be, kept it watered, and the dogs are having a blast right now, if you could hear that little shenanigans. But yeah, so eggplant is definitely one plant that I would recommend growing around here. It's done fantastic for me, and I'm very, very happy. And you only plant it once, and you can keep it for so far 2 years. Alright. Alright, so I've shared with you some successes that I've had this year. Some plants that I'm very happy with, like the eggplants and my spaghetti squash, I think are my two plants that I'm the most proud of for this past summer. But Gardening is always a trial and error, especially when you're learning to garden in a new area like I am. So I also wanted to talk about some decisions that I've made and some plants that haven't had the success that I was really hoping for them. And those are mostly the plants that are in my second bed. So I planted a lot of very summer crops in here, like corn, peppers, tomatoes, and other squashes. And they didn't do so well, I think mostly because there's a big tree not too far from the bed, and it's far enough that it does cast some shadow with the branches, but it doesn't bring the bed in shade. The bed was still, to my eye, in full sun or at times dappled sunlight. So I thought that they would still do okay. I think the main thing that the tree does is that it sucks up a lot of water from the area, including where my bed is. And I think that is actually what hurt the crops the most. So next year I might try growing salad crops all through the summer, since the tree seems to be casting some shade, especially near the end of the bed. And I might just throw some shade cloth on the salad crops at some point to prevent them from getting too much sunlight. The last plant I wanted to talk to you guys about today is St. Catherine's lace. St. Catherine's lace was my favorite plant that I planted this past year. It's a California native, and it was not familiar to me before. I just decided to give it a try. I found it at a nursery. It was labeled as a native, and I decided to give it a go. It is an absolutely amazing plant. It has this beautiful silvery foliage, and then in the spring it makes these crazy blooms, and they completely take over the plant. You can't see the leaves anymore, and it blooms white, but it's this cloud of white. Absolutely amazing. And then they age this beautiful rust color that you can see at the back, and it stays like that all through the summer, getting darker and more intense. And I think the best part of it all is that it was just covered with insects this whole time. At every stage something came to get something out of the plant, and to me that is just really good to see. It makes me feel good because I feel like I'm contributing to the environment and the insect life around me. But that's it for my monthly update. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing the success that I've had this summer, and maybe we'll decide to grow some of the plants along with me next year. But until next time, have a good one. Thank you for watching. Bye.